Dear Father, thank you again for sparing lives. Thank you for all the wonderful things you've given us. Father, thank you for the gift of your Son, Jesus. Please, Father, be with us not only today, but every day that we're part of this government to choose to do what's right for the people of this county. Again, Father, thank you for America, the freedoms you've given us. Thank you for our families. Go with us and watch over us. For we pray in our Son, Jesus Christ.
Motion to accept the minutes of the previous meeting.
Motion. Second.
Election ordinance, Lynette, you got that?
I got it. You need to call me.
You're taking a copy.
Ron, you'll have to read it.
You have to read it.
Should have this one.
4 pages.
19 minutes.
Good since the clerk asked us to do this.
We put down everybody at least.
Whereas it has been determined that portions of KRS 117.235 has been determined to be unconstitutional by the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit Court, the Fiscal Court desires to ensure quality elections to permit both campaigners and voters to exercise their First Amendment right and enact the following ordinance for the purposes of balance and fairness to both voters' privacy and the right of each campaigner's First Amendment right to voice their own opinion. This ordinance is designed to permit voters to vote at the polls without immediate contact of campaigners and electioneering at the voter stations, at the same time to allow each person desiring to campaign or elect and to do so in a fair and reasonable manner. Wherefore, the Martin County Fiscal Court enacts the following ordinance. No person other than election officers, challengers, persons assisting voters in accordance with KRS 117.255 and a minor child in the company of a voter shall be permitted within the voting room while the vote is being polled, except as follows. For the purpose of voting, by the authority of the election officers to keep order and enforce the law, with the express approval of the County Board of Elections to repair or replace voting equipment that is malfunctioning and to provide additional voting equipment, or at the voter's discretion, a minor child in the company of a voter may accompany the voter into a voting booth or other private area provided for casting a vote. No officer of elections shall do any electioneering on election day. No person shall electioneer at the polling place of the day of any election as established by KRS 118025 within a distance of 150 feet of any entrance to a building in which the voting machine is located if that interest is unlocked and is used by the voters on election day. No person shall electioneer within the interior of a building or fix any electioneering materials to the exterior or exterior of the building where the county court clerk's office is located, or any building designated by the County Board of Elections and approved by the State Board of Elections for absentee voting during the hours of absentee voting being conducted in the building of the county clerk pursuant to KRS 117085. Electioneering shall include the displaying of signs, distribution of campaign literature, cards or handbills soliciting of signatures to any petition or the solicitation of votes for or against any bona fide candidate or ballot question in manner which expressly advocates the election of or the defeat of the candidate or the expressly advocates the passage or defeat of the ballot question, but shall not include exit polling or other exceptions established by the State Board of Elections through the promulgation of administrative regulations. No voter shall be permitted to converse with others while in any room which in voting includes absentee voting is conducted concerning their support or non-support of any candidate, party or issue to be voted on except as provided in KRS 117255. Any precinct election officer, county court clerk, deputy county clerk, or any law enforcement official may enforce the election laws and maintain law and order at the polls and within 150 feet of any entrance to the building in which the voting machine is located if that entrance is unlocked and is used by voters. Assistance may be requested by any law enforcement officer. Notwithstanding the provisions of subsection 1 of this section, the school system may establish a program designed to instill in school children a respect for the democratic principles by voting by conducting any county a mock election for school children in conjunction with any primary or regular or special election consistent with rules promulgated by the State Board of Elections. This ordinance is intended only to affect campaigning on public buildings and public property. Public buildings and public property shall be defined as buildings, land owned by the taxpayer or governmental entity or agency of any kind, such as a school board, city, municipality, or any building which is owned or considered to be owned by governmental entity or governmental agency or taxpayer-funded properties, including but not limited to fire department, schools, county, or city municipality buildings, community centers, town halls, publicly owned theaters, senior citizen center if publicly funded, and libraries. The violation of this statute is punishable by a fine of not less than $100 and no more than $500 per incident.
What, turn this down Court of Appeals? Huh?
Yes, it was turned down and said that the election law that they have calls a private property. You can't tell people what to do.
So, Court of Appeals or Supreme Court?
It was the federal,
Federal.
Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals in Cincinnati. It's the one, before you get to the
So,
Supreme Court.
Only question, I'm all for it, I just don't understand how we can tell the federal court what to do.
We can't, they've already told us
No,
that
they
the
told us.
Kentucky statute
Oh,
was.
that's how that's what we do? Okay. So that's the first reading ordinance and the question on vote, we'll vote on it, at our next, on the 14th, I believe it is. We have a court meeting on the 14th.
Whenever you say.
Whenever you tell us.
We'll vote on our next regular. Okay, Mike, if you want to come up and tell the guys what you learned over since the last election.
Last election.
Tell you may want to consider that the election will probably be before the next regular court meeting.
Yeah.
Yep, it's on the 19th.
Yes. you may want to-
So that would put it at,
Well, they can't advertise this week in the paper.
that would put us, we're on the 21st. Or what are we, the 4th, Thursday, it'd be the 28th. Last Thursday night.
I think we just have to make it effective for the general, right? You know, if we
We don't
advertise,
have any county elections anyway.
we can't get it done, because we can't get the paper to the 13th.
I probably get it, or you probably couldn't get it in.
And then if you want to go in two papers, that would be in the 13th. I guess we could do it on the 21st, the 13th and the 20th.
The election is the 19th.
Did? Oh, no, we ain't got enough time to get it done.
Okay,
We're having our next regular meeting.
We'll do it next regular meeting.
Next week,
But the thing is there's no local elections, I don't think, right? Is it? It's all state elections, so
Good.
really,
I think we'll be all right, we just do it.
21st.
Are we ready? Okay, when you took the bids for the garbage, we had some no bids, incomplete bids. So, I already knew from talking to them some of the lobby stuff, but I went back and I contacted 4 companies. Western Action, Rumpke, Hinkle Blacktop, and Apple Valley. And asked them basically the question, what is the problem in our bid packet or ordinance that why you wouldn't bid on? So, I'm gonna give you 3 main concerns that were across the board. Now, we talked about a lot. I spent sometimes 45 minutes on the phone with each one or longer, but there was a lot said, but I'm gonna give you the 3 main concerns that came up in every conversation. One is, they didn't like the fact that there was no teeth in the ordinance to try to help with collections. In other words, if people didn't pay, there was nothing that basically encouraged them or, helped try to, there was no teeth in the ordinance on collection. No enforcement, basically. The second one was the 3 transfer stations. They said that, everywhere they operated, there was usually one transfer station that had a set of scales, and when people came into the transfer station, they were weighed and they paid for what they brought in. The third one was the split system. They said it would be a nightmare at the transfer stations to figure out every individual that came in there, if they were a paying customer or not paying customer, or they were, you know. They said they would have to have a system where, and at 3 different transfer stations, where that everybody came in would have to be checked to see what status they were at in the system. And they said, we understand that all this can be done, but we couldn't provide you a bid that we thought would even be competitive with adding all this into the system. It was just too broad in order for them to feel like they could be competitive in their bids. Now, those were the 3 main concerns that I had: the split system, the enforcement, and the 3 transfer stations. That was the 3 main concerns across the board, everybody I talked to.
Was there any other concern?
Well, like I said, they talked about a lot. You know, one guy told me they were concerned about all the environmental concerns at the transfer stations, and he really was concerned about Warfield because he had visited the transfer station. This one guy, we didn't know it, had spent a half a day over here roaming around our transfer station, just kind of see what went on and how it worked. Talked to the employees, and, you know, first one thing and another. And he said that he was, you know, they were concerned about that.
Concerned about what again? I missed it, I'm sorry.
EPA concerns at the transfer station. And, you know, a couple of them were really trying to say, you know, if the county would collect and just pay us a rate every month, it would make our bidding a lot more competitive. Well, I said, yeah, I'm sure it would. Your money would be guaranteed. And, of course, that's the way Coy County does it. And, but I think Coy County's losing money on their thing too.
Well, it seems like us, though, because they were going down too.
Yeah.
They've been paying a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I talked to the judge over there, and he said they were getting ready to impose things to keep them losing money because, but I guess they're kind of like us, as long as the money was good, like they just go ahead and pay the loss and move on and let the people slide, you know. But he said they were getting ready to change that.
Is it fair to say, Mike, they want where it's mandatory, everybody pays? If they want to bring it down there and dump it at one place, they don't care. They just, the billing aspect alone would break them up, try to see who owes and who don't and what happens. And I think they don't want the 3 transfer stations to run it, and you can understand why. We're, you know, in their ordinance, we're telling them they have to have 3 open, so many areas, so many people, they don't want to do that, do they?
No. That's the 3 things, the split system where now they said they didn't mind if people, if somebody didn't want to, here's how it works with everybody. If they come to your house and pick it up, if you don't pay, they cut you off. Then they turn you over to the county agency, which would be,
Or they can sue.
well, they can sue personally, but they just cut you off. I mean, it's like insurance. You don't pay your insurance, you don't have insurance.
What are they going to do with it?
Yeah. So they just cut them off. They quit picking them up. Then they send, would be, in this case, my office, they send me every month saying, you know, this person's garbage is not being picked up, they haven't paid their bill. I don't know how much, you know, most of them said we usually try to work a couple of months with people, in this case, get their bill in. So, here's what they said. They said, you know, if they don't want to pick up at home, and they don't pay their bill, then I would know that they're not paying their bill. If they want to haul it to the transfer station themselves and pay as they go, that's fine with them. Their system would be set up that when you come into the transfer station, if you brought 10 bags of garbage, they would charge you so much, or if you brought a truckload, you would pay, you know, basically by what you're bringing in. That's fine, but you would pay as you go. Now, I would get a letter stating that this person is not paying their garbage bill, so therefore they're not being picked up. So then we would have to find out if this person is going to the transfer station and paying as they go, because they would have receipts where they pay.
You'd have a full-time job, that's all you'd be doing.
Well, but anyhow, that's kind of how the system works. You either have it picked up, or you bring it to the transfer station and pay as you go. Now, they said.
They don't want it where they go in and pay, and then hop the transfer.
No.
They want you to pay and bring according to what they bring in.
According to what you bring in, because they said it's gonna be a nightmare to track all that.
You can't do it, it'd be impossible.
The problem with that is, though, for me, is if they ask pay them to go in, 20% of the people are gonna throw it over the hill somewhere. Instead of, if I have to go over and give them $10, they're gonna throw it over the hill somewhere, instead of giving that $10.
It's like, a lot of people go work, a lot of people work 4 times a week.
You understand what I'm saying?
Listen,
You understand what I'm saying?
yeah, but I'm just telling you what their concerns were about why they wouldn't be. Yeah.
And I'd rather pay according to what you bring, because you pay every month, bring what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, if you don't have it picked up, like I said, if you bring it to the transfer station, then basically, we run you across the scales, or there might be a minimum, if you bring 2 bags of garbage, and it weighs 30 pounds on the line. They have to charge you whatever the minimum would be, $3.
There should be some way of dealing with, if you don't take your garbage to the transfer station and you don't have the receipts, then there should be some way of dealing with those folks that don't follow the
That's
ordinance.
where they can send your officer out and say, hey, find who, one of these people are taking the trash, and they're most likely going to prison, and then you're outside that.
I think there's a couple of revisions that's been made in the ordinance for you all to look at. The changes are highlighted. One is on the enforcement, which would simply mean that according to the ordinance, if you don't pay your garbage bill, then either the nuisance officer, which might be a deputy, which, kind of talked about that, or the sheriff's office would go out and say,
Here's your citation.
you're in violation of the ordinance. Here's your citation. A citation is simply like a ticket. If somebody gets a ticket, they start finding out what they need to do to get it taken care of. Well, what you need to do to get it taken care of is pay your garbage bill.
Yeah, you find.
Then your fine goes away if you pay your garbage bill.
Insurance, show proof. of
Yeah.
insurance.
$30, go and pay it.
And then
You'd be good to
the
go, but
ticket
you're
goes,
gonna have to
yeah,
pay
the
it.
fine goes away. That's,
So it would be cheaper to pay your garbage bill than to pay the
pay
ticket.
$250 fine, yeah, or whatever. So that's going to encourage most of the people to pay their garbage. I mean, I can see where that would be really beneficial to the ordinance. Because, if people know they're going to have to deal with the citation, they might have to go to court one day and stuff.
Court costs, all that stuff.
9 times out of 10, they're going to go, okay, I'll come up with $40.
At least, not counting that.
Yeah. So, that's something I really think that needs to be added. The other is on the transfer stations, everybody across the board, and, it might be, you might work something else out, I don't know, but everybody across the board kind of said that there was one transfer station that people paid when they came in. Everything supposedly should be pickup. But if they bring it to the transfer station, they need to pay there as they go. We can't keep up with the,
Whether paying or bringing
yeah,
it.
you paid your garbage bill, but you don't want us to pick it up, you're just gonna bring it yourself. They said that would be an absolute nightmare to track all that. So, that's the other thing in there is that we made a change, Lynette did, and that's basically the 2 changes that are in the ordinance is deal with the transfer stations and the enforcement. So, be up to you guys to whether you want to.
Dan, you think that put, you think that we'll get 4 bids then?
Well, I asked them what would, what kept them from bidding on it, and that was the thing. And,
I think his wife, they said, has cancer, and he's been concerned about his
Now,
wife.
he talked that about it too, he basically said the same thing the other 3 said.
And we need to,
That's a big concern of Kenny Hinkle.
Nobody else bid either, really.
maybe there's something else too we put in here for what Mike said about also, we need to talk to the sheriff's office if you all choose to go for that route to make sure he's reached it.
Well, I was gonna talk to the sheriff's office about funding another deputy. And, you know, when we had a code enforcement officer, he takes those duties and then this duties too. If we have a code on a house or something, or somebody's got the garbage piled up, he can go write the citation. And then.
But it would be a deputy out of the sheriff's office, and we would have
He
more
has
authority.
authority, right?
Yeah.
They get a uniform
I
citation.
don't think you need an officer there. Yeah, could the judge told you they have an enforcement officer, you can add that to that. Yes, they go on.
I don't, as far as legally, I don't know. He asked the constables to do that.
I think you got an enforcement officer already,
Yeah, we could probably, I'll talk to John Herman, and I talked to him with a little bit, he's more than willing to help us.
Yeah, he said he was. Talked to him too.
you know, tell us, I think the ordinance, proposed ordinance we have has those changes in it. That's
Well,
what
I'm
I
concerned about
understood.
taking my transfer station up to you. I think that one up there should at least stay open 16 hours a week, because my people, I'm telling you, they won't drive all the way down here.
They don't have to if they do.
But
it.
if they got a load of shingles or something, they don't have to drive down these. And they would.
They would have to do that anyway.
They have to do it.
They have to do it anyway.
They have to go where they set scale.
Put the scale up there.
He said that was their concern, they don't want.
Well, that's the reason they say that they can't be one
They
deputy.
got, you know, I'm vote for that, nothing if they're gonna take the station up there. I just stay flat out. I will not vote for nothing if they take the transfer station. I can't see why they can't at least keep it open 16 hours. And they can pick the days they want to open.
Well, I'm sure they will, but now, you can see they didn't bid on it, we probably get a bid $30 or $40 a month.
Vote no on that too.
So what's your pleasure, guys? How do y'all want to work this? Y'all want to do it the way it's written, or you just want to say forget it?
If you put in there, if they keep it open 16 hours a week, that ain't asking for much. I'll be fine with it.
I mean, what do you want to do, guys?
I mean, you asking people to drive 30 miles around the grid.
We only got one transfer station in Johnson County, it's about twice the size of us. They may do fine on working.
Well, you know, I don't care what they do in Johnson County. Absolutely.
I have to agree, as far as convenience, you know, it would be a tough thing. You know, we have a transfer station in Warfield. And, you know, I don't like the idea of getting rid of it either. And I'm sure there's folks that want it there, but I don't see any other choice we have as far as moving forward, to try and get something done with this ordinance, with this garbage. I mean, it's been a year and a half now, and here we are sitting here still,
Budget time again.
budget time again, and I don't see how we have a choice. I know it's inconvenient, but when you do have mandatory pickup, it diminishes the need for that transfer station because they're coming to your house and picking up your household garbage. Anything above and beyond that, you have to take to the scales anyway, whether it's some kind of construction material or you clean out your garage or whatever. Because they don't pick all that stuff up on the curbside, you have to take it anyway.
What we talked about also is having, Johnson County does it for actually this month down there. Everybody brings it in, transfer, don't cost nobody nothing, Johnson County pays for it.
Right.
I wouldn't necessarily want to do it for 1 month out of the year, but I would like to do like 2 weeks in May and then maybe 2 weeks in October.
Amnesty.
Yeah, so there'd be a 6 month gap there, somebody wants to clean the garage.
Right.
That, we can do that, that ain't a problem. That
I think that's the norm mostly in other places.
I don't understand why it's not broken up. There's probably a reason they just do it for 1 month, but I just don't know that reason. I'm sure there's something there that makes them do it for a whole month instead of splitting it up. It's
Spring
probably got
cleaning.
something to do with cost.
What are you looking at? You're talking about changes where you say you have three contractors, three transfer stations, but what are you looking at?
You know?
Having one,
Yeah, and more.
and then where's that one going to be?
It'd be up to the contractor.
I'd be at the contractor, I guess. Probably here and I did, most likely. So, what do we have to do from here?
Just amend the ordinance.
You know what I mean?
Tell us, you need to tell us what you want to do, get a motion order, how you want to amend the ordinance.
I would suggest that you read the changes in the bold print. And then if you don't have enough to read the paper vote on that ordinance, then you can just scratch it.
Page 21 on that, I believe it is, 22.
Yeah.
21. If you look at it, it says,
21 and 22.
page 21, 22, I believe, Lynette, if you want to read it down.
What I did was I got the changes from the, from the first ordinance we did. So what I added was section 10.5. Any penalties levied or damages recovered under this chapter shall be in addition to any other remedies under federal, state, or local law. That's just to make it additional. And also include the criminal proceedings. Any person who violates any provision of this chapter shall be subject to criminal proceedings which can be cited by the office of the Martin County Sheriff, and upon conviction thereof shall be subject to a fine of not more than $250 if committed by a person, and not more than $500 if committed by a corporation, and for imprisonment for a term not to exceed 10 days. Each day that a violation continues after citation has been issued, and those concerned shall be deemed a separate offense. And that's to add the T that Mike was talking about. On page 22, based upon Mike's conversations with the different individuals, I amended section 12.13. A solid waste convenience center shall be maintained for the convenience of the county residents. Convenience center must be open a minimum of 40 hours per week. The franchisor will be permitted to charge for any and all solid waste brought to the convenience center. Franchisor may charge by weight or by cubic
And again, we need approval from downstate, yes, but that's what we're trying to, after talking to Mike and getting the concerns of the people who did not bid.
So, would we have to do a first reading today?
You don't have to do anything today, but if you want this has to, as Mr. Maynard was explaining to me, that it has to have two readings.
Yes.
Any amendment is the same thing as doing a brand new ordinance.
It's right over.
So can we just read the amendments?
That's what I just did.
Yes.
So,
We would have to have a motion for that to be accepted, the amendments, and then for that to stand as the
we're gonna do this.
You tell us.
Well, you're gonna ask for a motion, then.
Well, I'll ask for a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Don't go over and whip me. Got a motion, have a second.
This is all you change, so forth? Okay,
Motion, second.
I'll say.
John, second.
He did. And then I was going to, but he heard it.
That's one.
Got a motion,
transfer
second by
station.
Josh, all in favor?
Just one.
Oh, no, if that's one transfer station, okay. You didn't put that in there, okay? I didn't know about the transfer station.
Yes, that's why I want to try to trick you.
I got a motion, second, all in favor?
4 years per week, but it don't say how many.
This is one.
I don't see what we should be open 4 years per week, and some of the,
John.
They saw it was a big center.
One.
John. That's the John.
well, I vote no.
Got a motion, second, all in favor?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes. No, no. 4-3. Now, do we have to do anything else?
Now, we will send this down state for approval and have a second reading, advertising.
We have no financial motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second, all in
Second.
That motion